All right, there we are. All systems are go. Welcome to this surprise chat. Surprise edition of Midnight Rights. I know I hadn't actually mentioned that I would be streaming until basically today, and that is because I cannot count days. So the first Sunday, or the second Sunday of every month, I'm supposed to be out and doing things with real life people. But for some reason, I thought that today would be the second Sunday when it's only April 6th. Can you believe that? It's only April 6th. So you can tell that math is not my strong suit. But in any case, welcome to Night Rights. I am Jax Wolff, your host for the evening, and also a fantasy writer. You can find me mostly on Blue Sky at jaxwolfwrites.bsky.com. I can't believe that I've never or bsky.social, I'm sorry. I can't believe I've never actually mentioned that, but yes, I am mostly on Blue Sky whenever I'm not streaming. You can follow me for all kinds of shenanigans, but that's irrelevant right now, except for the writing shenanigans. If this is your very first Night Rights, hello. We are very chill peeps. Basically, how it works is this. We have an open chat. If you're coming in from B-Sky, you might be playing the video directly on B-Sky, and no judgment. You will just get my somewhat dulcet voice, I guess. And beats I definitely did not steal from Neil.fun. But if you click the link, you'll be brought to YouTube where you'll find an open chat. If you throw things in the chat, I will read them aloud and respond to them. There's also an icebreaker to help you ease into the whole shebang. The icebreaker is basically just a random topic, and it's usually about writing. Just respond to it in chat. That's your first step on interacting with others. Get you a little bit comfortable. It gives you a set thing to say. But it's totally optional. You can also completely ignore it and just say hi. Other than that, at around 8:30, usually the first half an hour is spent with me just talking at you, just so that people have time to come in, say hi, settle down, pick a project. So don't be surprised if it's going to be a lot of talking right now. But basically, at 8:30, we start the first of 3 writing sprints. Now, writing sprints is a little bit misleading. Writing sprints is actually just a 20-minute period in which you are productive on whatever you feel like. Now, the traditional thing is that you are writing for that half an hour, or for that 20 minutes. However, you can also be editing. You can be crafting, you can be drawing, you can be doing whatever you want. I've even had people come in and play video games. It's totally fine. But at the end of that 20 minutes, we stop and we discuss our progress very briefly. I launch into a little bit of chatter to give you time to relax, rest, recover, come up with ideas for what you want to do for the next 20 minutes, get some water, stretch your legs, do whatever. And or just actually talk to me. I am very lonely. I'm kidding. I'm not doing that. I'm a little bit lonely here. But at the end of usually 15 minutes, normally more than that, we go for another sprint. And we do that 2 more times, 3 altogether throughout the night, until the very end. So that's why it's 8 p.m. start hard time to whenever. Normally it's up until 11 p.m. if you want to just pop off for the middle, do whatever. Totally no judgment. That spiel over. Hello, Companion Wolf. I did promise a little bit of something different. There is an icebreaker, and you are free to actually answer the icebreaker. And actually, I will read off the icebreaker today. It is basically, if you didn't know already, April 6th is Asexual Awareness Day. It's International Asexual Awareness Day specifically, but I've read it both ways. It's basically a pride day for asexual people, which is really fantastic. If you didn't know, I am asexual myself. I am specifically biromantic asexual, and we will get into that in a second. But first, tonight's icebreaker, in honor of Asexual Awareness Day, it's, do you have any ASOCs? Talk about them. So throw in your ASOCs into chat. I will read off their descriptions and root for you. Because absolutely, we need more ace characters. And when I say ace, I don't just mean arrow ace. And here's that rant. I've promised that I would talk about misconceptions when it comes to being asexual for the first half an hour just for funsies. If you also didn't know, the project that I'm working on, which you see on the right 3/4 of your screen, is called The Nameless Song. Now, I advertise The Nameless Song as a fantasy romance, and it is. The main character, Mick Martin, is just like me. He's biromantic asexual. His love interest and adventuring partner, Eleanor, she's going through a change of last name, but we'll get to that eventually. She is his opposite, wherein she is actually demi-romantic bisexual. It's a little bit uneven, I know. I just cannot really picture Mick as really thoroughly enjoying sex. Like, he appreciates Eleanor's presence. He appreciates everything about Eleanor, but he thinks of her in terms of everything but sexuality. So he loves her aesthetically. He loves her personality. He loves how excited she gets whenever she gets onto different topics. He loves every single thing about her. He just doesn't really picture her in a sexual way. And that is the way that I navigate love and sexuality. I am very much a romantic person. I fall in love with people. I want to have that happy ending where I am in domestic bliss with somebody. I very much feel comfortable with holding hands, kissing, cuddling, all the preliminaries. I even would not be opposed to getting married. It's just that I do not see people. I don't experience sexual attraction. I don't see people in a sexual way. Essentially, to go a little bit deeper, excuse me for a second. The problem with living in New Jersey is that people blast on their stereos. And I'm doing this in my apartment, and I do live in the New York City area. But the problem is people love to blast on their stereos so that the entire neighborhood can hear. So I apologize if you heard any of that. But basically, what that means, what being asexual means, and being in an asexual relationship means, is that, and I think what I'm trying to say is, what it means when I say I don't see people in a sexual way is, I don't really, when I'm attracted to somebody, it's usually because of their personality. It's usually because they make me feel safe and secure, or they make me laugh, or I just feel comfortable being myself around them. And when I fall in love with people, I want to be that for them. I want them to feel comfortable with me, and I want to make them happy. So there is of course that level of physical want, like physical intimacy. Like, I do want to go to bed with somebody and curl up with them and just cuddle with them and just have my arms around them, that kind of thing. But I don't feel the need to take it any further. And I'm actually sex repulsed specifically. So what that also means is I very much do not want to take it any further. Like, I actually have anxiety attacks whenever I try. And it just happens. Like, I've broken down crying, sobbing, that kind of thing in bed with somebody because I just don't like the idea of taking it that much further. It's not something that I want to do. So that is why I want to create a representation that's not just aro ace. Like, every single ace representation that I've been able to find out there has been aro ace, and it's really frustrating because that kind of opinion bleeds into ace conversations about actual people. So, like, as much as I respect my fellow aces, it's like whenever they say, haha, can't be me, I don't experience any sort of attraction whatsoever, or being ace is being completely oblivious to all forms of attraction. And I'm like, that's not me at all. I don't relate to that. And I actually feel a little bit erased. And it's because all of a sudden it's harder for me to navigate the romantic half of my identity. It's all too often, whenever I get into relationships, I've been told, sex is an essential part of a relationship. Or how do you navigate your relationship with a partner? Or things like, I've even had people who would straight up be like, you need to be fixed, essentially. Like, if you tried to address sex in this specific way, that you will enjoy sex, and that's not how things go. So the biggest misconception that I want to clear up right now, two of them actually. The first one is that there's such a thing as a split attraction model. And this should not be a novel thing, because it's normalized in our society to experience sexual attraction without romantic attraction. Think of any time that you've seen people talk about one night stands, friends with benefits, sleeping with people who you don't fully want to commit to. That is sexual attraction without romantic attraction. Just take that entire concept and flip it on its head. So then you have all of the cute preliminaries and the want for commitment, but you don't have the want for sex. That's the concept. It's not really that difficult, and it's achievable if you have healthy communications, healthy boundaries with your partner. I don't know if my ex would have been a good example of this, because he's a dick and an asshole. But one thing that I can say about him is that he's always respected my boundaries, even when I was like, I would love to make you happy. If making you happy means I have to try, then I will try. But he had never pushed me. Once he found out how bad my sex anxiety was, he would never push me to actually go all the way, essentially. So he would always be like, you're ace, I understand that. I can do what I need to do, and I want you to only do what you feel comfortable. That is how you that is what you should be doing as an allo partner to an ace partner. You know what I mean? So, like, it's basically compromise. And no, it is not cruel or self-centered to ask a partner to do this, because, like, if you want to have a romantic relationship with anybody, like, my mere existence is not supposed to be a cruelty to another person. It's you can't call it a cruelty to another person, like, I should not be full-on celibate just because somebody thinks that other people are incapable of figuring out how to navigate their own sexuality as well, also having a relationship with me, So that is like one of many things that kind of need to be talked about when it comes to prejudice against asexual people, I think. It's an entire field, I think, that doesn't really get discussed all that often, and I feel is erased whenever we reduce asexuality to only ace, you know? So, I don't know. I read J.K. Rowling's post or tweet about this and about how it's fake oppression, but it's sort of like there's so much that goes into it, and that is genuinely oppression. Like, there's the erasure, there's the forced, the implied forced. I want to say celibacy because that's the wrong word, but like saying that I deserve to die alone because you can't conceptualize having a relationship with another person, with somebody like me. That is a form of cruelty in itself, I think, and it's not something that gets articulated as often. But so is like the sexual harassment, sexual and technical sexual assault, which I have also experienced as an ace person. The point is, there is nothing wrong with me as an ace person. I don't need, my asexuality is not a form of an experience. My anxieties about sex are not an experience. I don't need to have like guys in my DMs, which I have had, say very sexual explicit things as forms of like education or proposals on what I should do in order to quote unquote determine whether or not I'm asexual. I don't need to have guys lay their hands on me because they think that that will be able to fix me somehow. Just because you cannot conceptualize asexuality as its own form of sexuality does not mean that asexuals don't exist and that they don't experience some form of discrimination. So that is the entire rant that I had all been pent up all day. And it's not something, and I have been tempted to like write an entire B-Sky thread about this because like it really is important to my writing. There are a lot of things that I have removed about between drafts about Mick, but this is the one thing that's staying and the one thing that I insist on staying because his mindset is my mindset. That's why I find it so very easy to write him. Like the way that he sees Eleanor, what he wants out of a relationship, how his identity affects his self-worth, and whether or not he feels like he deserves a partner. All those things are my things, So like, and I also want this book to be like, this is what an asexual alloromantic looks like. This is how they navigate their wants, their needs, their concepts of intimacy. So 100% like asexuality and my identity as an asexual person is extremely important to me and extremely relevant to what I'm doing as a writer. This is also why The Nameless Song might be the only romance novel that I will ever really write, because like every other idea like I have, it all explores anything like relationships that aren't romantic. But just this once I wanted to write a romance just because, when I first came up with the idea, it was at the height of my relationship, and there was the joy and comfort that I wanted to feel and get onto paper. It's collapsed since then, obviously, through no fault of my own, as I keep on telling myself, and this will be the last time I will be emotional about it on chat, but basically, like, what I felt a couple years ago when I first started writing Mick and Eleanor is so hard baked into the DNA of The Nameless Song that I can't imagine it to be anything else. That having been said, I'm going to go back to the chat. That is the entire asexual rant. Happy asexual visibility day, everybody. And like I said, I fully respect ace folks and their experiences. And I fully respect the depiction of like ace people wanting, wanting neither romantic or sexual relationships. It's very true that relationships, you don't need relationships to be a complete person, which is what a lot of media tends to, or well, a lot of mainstream media tends to hammer in, whether it's like the power of friendship or the power of love, what have you. Like, you do not need that stuff in order to be a complete person. Yes, humans are social creatures, and yes, it is very true that we function better whenever we're in packs, but, you are also your own person, and that is super important to remember whenever you go into a relationship. But beyond that, like, I fully respect my ROA's brethren, but I just wish there was more out there, so that's why I'm making it. That having been said, Campanuel says the protagonist of my old first completed novel draft, Rebel at Sunset, is ace. Their name is Summer, and the book, sci-fi invasion-esque, deals with the ideas of autonomy, choice, and personhood. See, that's excellent. I am all for that. And I guess I might go into what I was saying about how you do not need to be in a relationship to be a complete person. You can live a fulfilling life on your own. You can live a fulfilling life with somebody in it, and it's still yours. Like, you do not cease to exist after you become partnered to somebody, and you do not cease to exist after that partnership dissolves. I think that's also like the spirit of aceness, really, like being able to embrace your independence and your own self-identity and your own self-realization, but also in some respects, like whether it's being asexual but alloromantic, or the opposite, a romantic but allosexual, like damn, where was I going with that? I think it's just like you can also include people in it, Like, relationships are fun, essentially, and, making this deep, intimate connection with somebody, whether it's physical or actually emotional, is also fun. But, it shouldn't define you, is, I think, the core thing. And that is what a lot of the A-Spec and Aerospec community really emphasize. And I think that's beautiful. So, yeah, that is a lot of words to say asexuality is valid, and aromanticism is also valid. Being aroace is valid, but also being allosexual and aromantic, or asexual and alloromantic, all of these are valid. It's valid to be demisexual, it's valid to be demiromantic, it's valid to be gray, it's valid to be anywhere on the spectrum. It is valid. You are valid. There's nothing wrong with you. You are not broken. You are not weird for navigating relationships in a way that does not fit the heterosexual or the allosexual ideal. It doesn't make you less queer if you don't have sex, whether it's gay sex or straights or what have you. It doesn't make you less queer to not want a relationship of that kind, of any kind. It's, you're queer, you're here, you're valid, I love you, no matter how you experience connecting with other people. So yeah, that's it. that is basically all I have to say. And, you know, I hope that this exact spirit gets across in what I'm writing as well. I know I'm bringing it back to writing, but like, I also kind of want to emphasize that I'm not saying all this out of nowhere. I'm not using this chat as an excuse to go off about political things that are also important to me. It's like, this is 100% like super duper relevant, and I really want people to understand that. And also, like, I don't know. But in any case, it is 8:28. I know that was a lot of talking, so if you wanted to drop in and say hi, feel free. Tell us about your project. Feel free to answer tonight's icebreaker. There are a handful of you in the chat. Otherwise, we will begin to prep our first 20-minute spree. Companion Wolf, since you are the only person who has said hi so far, feel free to let us know what you are tackling today. Reynos, actually, hello. Reynos says, thanks for sharing all that. It was good to hear your experience, even though I'm sure it wasn't as fun to go through. I really appreciate that. It's been a roller coaster. I remember when I was like in my early 20s, I used to joke a lot about sex, and I didn't really fully understand, you know, why wasn't I connecting to people. So like, in a way, I had to basically be dragged through a lot of my adulthood and run into walls, get cornered a lot, because I didn't fully understand. I didn't really have the tools to understand either, because like, sure, asexuality has always been a thing in the queer community, but it hadn't been super accepted. So the language wasn't widely spread. So it wasn't until I was like, I don't know, like only a few years ago when I realized, you know, the split attraction model exists, and I had the tools to better understand what I was going through, why I was so anxious, and that I didn't have to go through all these experiences because there was nothing wrong with me. I was not broken. I don't need to be forced to understand, essentially. But thank you. Leakit says, made it. Hello, hello. Rin says, hello, my dear. I am happy to make it. Hello. Companion Wolf says, I should work on finishing a thing that I have to do for my freelancing job, but what if I did a fun thing, a solo TTRPG instead? As a former freelancer, I will tell you two things. Number one, fun things are always excellent. You need time to give yourself a breakdown then, because if you it's so very easy with freelancing to be like, I have all the hours to work on these things. I will work on all of the things at all of the hours. That is terrible. You will burn out. Do not do that. On the other, I also, as a freelancing person, I will say that the deadline is a very solid and real thing, and you will lose a client. Do not lose a client. So that having been said, if the deadline's right around the corner, I would encourage you to consider doing a little bit of work this stream. If it's not, then feel free to have some fun with solo TTRPG. It's up to you, ultimately. Like, if you're on your breaking point, please take the time to take care of yourself. But I also want to make sure that you get money. Get your dough, get your bread, so that you can buy more TTRPGs. Reno says, split attraction is the sexual and romantic being separate things. Sorry, some new terms are new to me. Yes, essentially. So that is basically the nail on the head. There's actually something called the split attraction cake, which I highly recommend you look up, but it is a graphic, and it is the best way I've ever seen explained. Split attraction cake, just for funsies. Attraction layer cake, yes. Actually, I'm going to link to it in chat, and hopefully it'll show up. If it doesn't, I will also toss it into the Discord. Let me know if you see the link. This tells, it also goes goes through all the different types of sexuality and all the different types of attraction, and it forms like a little cube while also walking through different attractions, because ultimately it's very complicated, but there are different layers and different types of sexuality. But ultimately the simplified version is, yes, the split attraction model is the idea that sexual attraction and romantic attraction are two different things. I had actually mentioned earlier, I don't know when you came in, but I had mentioned earlier that we actually have normalized the concept of sexual attraction without romantic attraction. So whenever you talk about one-night stands, friends with benefits, any situation in which you have like two characters or two people hooking up, but they're not actually in a committed relationship with each other, that's all sexual attraction without romantic attraction. The opposite is basically, so if you take that, but then flip it around to its opposite, wherein you have the commitment but no sex, that is the opposite. That is romantic attraction. So putting it a different way, it's sexual attraction is whenever you find or you have that want for the physical intimacy of another person. You enjoy a more visceral experience with them, essentially. Romantic attraction does not have to be that. It can include, I list off examples based on my own experiences, but it can include like holding hands, cuddling, hugs, kisses, being physically close with somebody. But it's more of an emotional connection with somebody. So you find that you have, or whenever you see somebody, you're like, I want to be in a committed relationship with them, or I find them emotionally engaging. That is a form of romantic attraction. So yeah, I'm also very happy to also, excellent is showing up. Excellent. I am also a little bit tempted to pin that to the chat messages for today, because hell yeah, why not? I'm gonna do it. But yeah, Reynos also says terrible timing considering today's theme is ace. It's actually really good timing because today is specifically Asexual Awareness Day, so it is a good time to be asking an ace person these questions. Or at least a willing ace person. Like, don't go up to, like, as with any sort of marginalized identity, don't go up to somebody and be like, hey, I have a million questions. But if you have somebody who's willing, and I am willing, so long as you don't get explicit or anything like that, feel free to ask away. Like, I've also had, I've mentioned that one of my experiences had been, I would have people, in the plural, talk with me in very explicit ways. Like, they would be like, some of them would be like, well, what about this insert very explicit scenario here, and a lot of detail. Would you be up for this situation? And I'd be like, no. Or I'd have somebody who'd be like, or I'd be like, well, I'm ace, I don't really experience sexual attraction. And they'd be like, cool. So what do you think about, like, I had one person in, back when in my fandom days, they had like questions for me, because we were both writers. They found me through fan fiction, and they dropped in, and I told them, or they asked me, what's ace, and I was happy to tell them. And then they were like, cool, can you give me feedback on my rape fic? And I'm like, why? Well, this character has no sexual attraction. And I'd be like, no. So, like, don't do anything like that, and you're fine. Companion Wolf says, yes, the deadline. I will do it. I would just be mad the whole time. LOL. Just think about how much money. So it's sort of like that Simpsons meme where it's like money can be exchanged for goods and services. Just remember, money can be exchanged for more TTRPGs. That I mean, it said is currently 8:37. Feel free to drop into chat. You know what you're working on and whatnot. But other than that, our first 20 minutes is coming up. Companion Wolf says, I'm doing it, gamers. I'm working on my article. $80 money beyond my wildest dreams. That is $80. That is like 40 TTRPGs on itch.io. I actually don't know how much people are charging for TTRPGs these days. It's probably more than that, and I apologize to the TTRPG creators out there for underestimating. Companion Wolf says journalism freelance is not a luxurious thing. I have to admit, no freelance job is. That's why I stopped freelancing. That and AI stole my job, but you know how it is. But anyway, 8:38. Companion Wolf is working on journalism thing. I am working on the Nameless Song. Fingers crossed I actually finished the first fucking chapter. I actually rewrote the beginning and have not had the energy to do much more than that since. But we're getting to the part where Eleanor is getting introduced, so like hopefully it'll pick up. Companion Wolf says anywhere from $0 to many dollars for TTRPGs. Depends on the dev and the game. LOL. Okay, so 40 TTRPGs is a reasonable estimate for $80. That's good to know. So that so that having been said, feel free to pop in anything else anybody else is working on into chat. Other than that, oh shit, there's a focus mode. What does this do? My shit. I'm still learning ellipsis, so you'll have to excuse me if I'm like, holy shit, this is really cool. There we go. We're doing it like this, lads. Alright, 8:40. Shake out those wrists. Take that deep breath. Clear your thoughts. Because we are going to the first round. Wishing you all the best of luck. And deep breath in. Get ready. Get set. And here we go. All right, that is our first run. How did we do? 421 words on my end, which is really not that bad. How about the rest of you? Let's see, let's look at chat. Companion Wolf says, oh, this is Ellipsis? Cool. Yes, I've just recently started on it. I don't know if you were here for the chat where I talked about it, but basically, I've decided to do this next draft on Ellipsis because I just kind of wanted to have people to look in on my, like, first off, I wanted to get off of Google Drive. You know, we all know where Google is on a political level. And there have been so many shenanigans involving Google that I kind of wanted to dump it for something else that allowed me to share my work with other people. So somebody brought up Ellipsis. I was actually thinking of doing Proton Docs beforehand, but apparently Ellipsis had actually been structured for writers to use. So I'm giving it a shot. It also allows me to invite people onto the doc so that they can cheer me on, because I am going to fucking need it. Let's see. Leacat says, I was trying to get into Ellipsis earlier and put my current story into that instead to try it out, but it didn't like when I copied pasted things. Reno says, yeah, Ellipsis doesn't do the direct from word processor HTML copy and paste thing well because of the markup language. Can see whether you want to import. Or something. Also 263 words. Excellent progress. Excellent progress. I am kind of curious about how it does with exporting. How do I get out of... Okay. Because ultimately I will have to actually do an export, but... Oh yeah, share an export. I mean, I guess copy to rich text would work. Other than that, this is going to be so much fun. We'll see how... I guess we'll cross the bridge whenever we come to it. I'll probably do some experimenting later because... You know, like, it's gonna have to be exported one way or another whenever I'm done, and preferably not to AO3. But we'll see. Companion Wolf says, got the transcript into a Word doc and am starting to edit and rewrite. Have the basis of the story down. It's 3,000 plus words. Damn. The damn is how I'm pronouncing the wide-eyed smiley face and also my own reaction. So that's good. You're making progress, especially since this is a freelance. Excuse me for a second. There's sirens going off outside. Welcome to a city. It's also very active today. I don't know what's going on between a lot of people just pumping out music and sirens. I guess it's just like we're all getting ready for storm shenanigans, maybe? I don't know. Anyway, that is really good progress for what you're doing, which is freelancing work. May the next couple of sprints help you finish off the rest, because like once you finish off the rest, you can do fun things too, you know? Like you get money for fun things, but you also get to do fun things. It's like a win-win situation. So I fully support this. Lincoln says to Reynos. I'm so sorry. I have miraculous on the brain apparently. To Reynos, that's interesting. I'm actually in GDocs, and I think I can copy as Markdown. So I might go ahead and try that now. Good luck with it. I know that copying to and from GDocs is fun for everybody, so I wish you the best of luck. Companion Wolf says, note, I did not write 3,000 plus words. I just moved those over and am editing it slowly. That's totally cool. That still counts as progress, even if it's not like literally producing 3,000 words. Bay says, hiya, Bay here. I came in while you guys were in the middle of your run. LOL. Welcome. I think this is our first time at one of these streams. So if so, you know, welcome. Glad you could join us. You have finally been sucked in from Discord, which is excellent. Reno says, yeah, I only use ellipsis to post on AO3 so far, and the HTML exports like a dream. And I can totally do HTML to anything else, and so that's good. Yeah, I can work with this. I can also work with Markdown. There are definitely options. It would be awesome if I could just like export with all the formatting and be able to paste it into like a document later on. But you know, when I say document, I mean like not OpenOffice, LibreOffice or something like that. But you know, we'll figure it out. It'll work one way or another. Bay says, I did enter one of those streams like several weeks ago. LOL, just been busy. Totally understandable. Like real life is a bitch to everybody. So Leoncat says RTF would work. RTF would work for me since it can be opened in regular Word. RTF would work. Oh, that is a good point. Does this produce an RTF? Let me see. Rich text copy. So basically it copies only the text, and you have to actually, let me see something real quick. LibreOffice. Because once you get it copied, that's fine, right? Okay, hold on. We're gonna try something real quick. Oh, okay, so I copied the rich text. Seems like the formatting stayed. Why are you asking me for a printer connection? The only thing that didn't come with me are the indentations, but I guess if what I can do is basically like once I finish the entire thing, I'll go back through and format it correctly with actually no, I can do a thing. Hold on. I mean, it's not ideal to define paragraph what's it, but that works. Alright, I mean, I can work with this. It's a start. We will figure it out eventually. We will figure out how to export into docs that I can upload to whatever I need, whether it's like an agent's inbox or I don't know, anything else. But it's a start. I am totally okay with this. That is cool. I think the only other thing about LibreOffice is, like I said, I do miss cards with what we get with Scrivener. And the reason why I miss it is because I generally don't like to do everything in one massive doc. Just because I know lag is a bitch, and I do not believe in brevity is the soul of wit at all. So I can definitely see this as becoming an unwieldy bitch. Like, we're already at 2,706 words, and I haven't fleshed anything out. Granted, 1,000 of these is a prologue that I might be lopping off anyway, but you know, it's gonna be long-winded. But, I'm not going to be looking forward to like chapter 20 when we've hit the 100,000 word mark. This is just going to be a whole bag of fun, but it might work. It might operate a little bit smoother than GDocs. I'm noticing that so far at the very least. But also my computer is an old person, even though it's only like 4 years, like 2 years old really, but it's kind of stuttering, so we'll see how it goes. Other than that, you know, how is everybody tonight? I never actually said that. We have Bay who has joined us in the actual chat for the first time. Like, Bay, I think this is the first time we've seen Bay appear in chat. I am calling you the fuck out. I am so sorry. But you know, it's a delight. Anybody else? I see that we have like 6 viewers. Feel free to say hi. Unless I can't count, and we actually do have all 6 of you in here. But you know, how's everybody feeling? How's everybody driving on this fun Sunday afternoon / evening? And I baked bread today. I also yesterday, the reason why we didn't have a stream is because I went out to the city. And I'm still on my vegan kind of thing. Like, I'm very loose about it, though. I've actually integrated milk and eggs back in, largely because my family who came in at the end of last month, they like to get me groceries and stuff, and just to, you know, help me out. You know, I can afford my own groceries, thank the gods, but, you know, they always like to do what they can because I've been going through a lot of shit. So I was working one of those days, and my mom went off to Walmart to go get groceries, and she comes back and she's like, "I got you eggs," and I was like, "Oh, okay, Mom. I mean, I'm trying to do vegan stuff, but you know, cool, thank you." Then she was like, "I got you 24 eggs." I'm like, please tell me you didn't pay $30 for that." She didn't. She paid like 12. But I am eating eggs now, I guess. But Japan Wolf says, "What was the question? I had to poke YouTube into working again." How are we? Reno says, "How are we doing?" Yeah, basically, and I'm basically going off on a ramble. But yeah, yesterday I was in Lower Manhattan for friend stuff, and I came across this really fantastic vegan place. And the thing is about New York, it's so strange. It's you can get anything that you want anywhere that you want, but it is really difficult to find a good vegan place outside of very select areas. Even if you go into like Hipster Central, you might have the vegan place, but that's it. But there's this one place, you know, down in around Fidei, southern Manhattan. I think it's like Park Street or something like that. I can't remember what the street is, but it's called Plant Junkie. And I swear to God, it was the best, first off, best coffee in the city. I don't know what they use, but Jesus Christ, it was so good. And, you know, they say that it's the best chocolate chip. It's not, but it's the size of your head and still very delicious. It's very soft and chewy and very cake-like. It was great. Best tofu sandwiches too. It was all around really good. And it just reminded me of like a friend of mine in the FC had asked what the best food in New York is, and I will tell you. Unfortunately, they're not actually in. I could advertise right now to them, but I don't know. Most of the they're basically kind of like they have life stuff going on. A lot of them are in the South, which is, if you don't know, is getting buffeted by storms right now. But if you know, just in case anybody ever asks. Best food in New York City. Favorite restaurant before I became vegan was actually called Assault and Battery. It's the best fish and chips in the city. Actual authentic recipes from the UK. Absolutely fantastic. Like they serve giant ass pieces of fish, huge ass portion of fries on actual newspaper ish kind of. And back when I first came into it's been there for well over 10 years. And when I first came to the city, it was actually staffed by a literal British dude who came into the country. So that's how you know it's really good. And I say that this is the best fish and chips, which is saying something because Gordon Ramsay has a fish and chips place in Times Square. It is better than that. So that's how you know that's the best restaurant in the entirety of New York City. Dollar slices are probably the best pizza. There's no specific place that I have in mind. Pizza is pizza to me. Though I can tell you, where you can find the worst absolute god-awful pizza, and that's called Pizza Hut. But the best pizza, go to any dollar slice shop. They will all look the same. They will all have like dollar slices or combo deals, get 2 slices and a Coke. If you find a bunch of people outside, that's how you know it's a good dollar slice place. Avoid any of the dollar slice places around Times Square, but if you go towards Grand Central, there are some good ones over there. Best coffee, other than Plant Chunky, is Gregory's Coffee. Just choose any one of them. It's a chain. It's basically like Starbucks. Every corner has one. But it's more ethical than Starbucks, and they have better coffee. It's like coffee that actually tastes like coffee. So it's also a really good place if you want to get some writing done. It's usually a pretty chill atmosphere inside. You can usually find a table. It's a good time all around. Best bagel is Bagel Market right outside of the Port Authority. Hand-rolled bagels, 1,000 cream cheese flavors, including tofu. Really good bacon, egg, and cheeses. You'll have a good time over there. Best hot dog, do not fucking eat hot dogs at all. Love yourself. Don't fucking do that. There are really good halal carts as well. Best halal cart is probably outside of the Simon & Schuster building, though, or just above Rockefeller Center. They used to have really good carts up that way. So, you'll find excellent stuff all around. But it's a lot of fun just exploring these places, and that's probably also why I have weight problems right now. But back to the chat. This is all based on what I was doing yesterday, because I was in the 9/11 area because there was just an event down there. But yeah, really good vegan place down there. It's really great. Inside the Oculus, there's literally nothing though. Don't even try. That is one thing that you should probably know about New York City. The 9/11, that after the smoking career that used to be, it's now a luxury mall. So, or it's kind of like an upscale-ish mall, doubled with a memorial, which is the most American thing that you could possibly conceive of. But that's what happened. Reno says, back to the chat. Reno says, I just beat a really hard boss in mobile game. Took mom 1.5 hours, which is no fun when holding a phone. Yikes. The next one is a correction. Me, not mom. I was not about to question it, but, that having been said, really good job. Excellent. Hell yeah for beating that boss. Companion Wolf says, I'm doing okay. I came home from teaching Sunday school at 1 p.m. and slept for 6 hours. 3rd graders were loud today. Oof, you sound like you needed that nap. But that is also a really cool way to spend your Sunday. Going out doing something for the community and then face planting for 6 hours. Basis, doing okay. Also did a bit of cleaning and also rode my exercise bike and rice cooking in the rice cooker. LOL. Excellent. Also a very chill Sunday. I also kind of envy you for having that exercise bike. That sounds like a lot of fun. Companion Wolf says bagel. In all caps, bagel. And all I have to say to that is Companion Wolf knows where it's at. Companion Wolf also says they're wonderful kids. They just are squirrely. LOL. To be fair, if we're talking about third graders, we're talking about like what, 9-year-olds? Totally understandable. Like, I mean, it's not like in the age range where they are pouncing off the walls and it's sort of like that's just what small children do. But it's still like underneath a certain age where you start to mellow out and you switch from bouncing off walls and being rebellious to just being rebellious and also dramatic in your teenage years. But understandable is what I'm saying. 9-year-olds are very interesting. That having been said, currently 9:21. Companion Wolf says to be quite honest, third grade, best grade, old enough to get stuff and young enough to not be mean. Amen. I mean, there are certain brands of mean, but yeah, it's still kind of like young enough that it's not like judgmental kind of thing, unless your parents were judgmental. Like, I remember my parents were, so there was that. But that having been said, it is 9:21. We can prep for our next run. Now that, let's go back into focus mode. Let me get some water. Make sure that you're hydrating, by the way. We'll start at 9:25, by the way, just sort of like giving myself a quick rest because I went from writing to talking for 20 minutes, so I just need a quick little breather there, and we'll be right there. All right, it is 9:24, so that means next round will start in just a minute. So if you're not on your thing that you're making progress with, I would recommend getting back there now and just sort of like shake yourself off, loosen yourself up for another run. I do like Ellipsis. It's got everything that I could ever want. Like, there's timer, there's focus mode, there's all the things. Anyway, 9:25. Deep breath in. Best of luck. And here we go. That is our second. That is our second venture out there. How did we do? As you can see on my screen, I managed to hammer out 440 words, which is actually a really good. It's a really good sprint. But how about everybody else? Let's see. Going to the chat, it looks like we have Gavin, if I recall correctly. Welcome. Gavin says, "Hey everyone, how's the evening treating you lovely humans?" We're sprinting, got it. Yeah, this is actually the second sprint out of our usual 3, so you came just in time. But yeah, we are just kind of vibing, chilling. You managed to miss the entire rent at the beginning, so that's probably a good thing, unless you really wanted to hear me go off about ace problems. Second ramble was a whole bunch of me trying to figure out how ellipsis works. We learned together, so, that unfortunately is a bit... That would have been cool to see, but long story short, there are many ways that you can export things on ellipsis. So if you're hoping to do like a manuscript that you then run through self-publishing software, or if you wanted to send it to an agent, it's going to be unusual. You can copy with rich text and then paste it into a doc on LibreOffice or whatnot. So, it's going to be a little bit clunky, but it might still work. It's just a shame that it doesn't export to, like, a DOCX or anything like that, or even, like, an RTF file or anything other than a PDF. But it's still workable. So, just in case, just, like, as a heads up, if you ever wanted to, like, give it a shot, then, of course, there was, like, 10 minutes of me talking about restaurants in New York. Companion, that is like what you've missed so far, besides the sprints. That having been said, Companion Wolff says edited down to 1700 exactly so far. Excellent. For context, Companion Wolff has started at 2000, or no, it was 3000, wasn't it? 3000. I'm sorry. So that is a really good bit of progress. Excellent job so far. Bay says, "I was working on an outline and got a few paragraphs in." Also excellent. Get that outline done. It's super exciting to see that you're working on something that requires an outline. So, congratulations for getting back into things, I do believe. Or at least I think you're getting into things. I know that you had just wrapped up a really major project earlier this year-ish. Time is relevant. But, yeah, welcome to a new project. That's very exciting that you're working on something new. Gavin says, "Ugh, that sounds like work I don't want to do. I'll stick with Campfire, which can export DOCX." I am very tempted to look at Campfire. The only downside is I really want to have something that I can share with other people, just because it makes betaing so much easier. And also because it makes like co-writing and having somebody like be able to read my stuff and then cheer me on and keep me from falling into a pit of depression are all really important things, which is why like people have been suggesting other pieces of software to me, and I've been like, I really want to try this, but also where do I put the docs, because I don't want to put them on Google Drive anymore, Like, how do I share them with other people? So, yeah, Google Drive is a butt these days, politically and in terms of policy. Like, it just kind of, like, scares me about the whole AI thing. So, I've been trying to get away from Google Drive. But if I can find a good software that allows me to share my work, and also does all kinds of other things like allow you to export simply, that would be awesome. Lena Ket says, "Yeah, even exporting to an RTF, you can easily change that to a DOC in any software." Agreed. Ellipsis unfortunately doesn't seem to have that option. It is, I will show you. Oh wait, maybe it does? It just has a markdown document. Let me see what it looks like if I open up a markdown document in Notepad. This is going to be... So yeah, you can see over here, there is a share and export column here. The share part is pretty straightforward. It is document link, which you can toss to people, or if you highlight things, you can copy a snippet, which I do not understand the point of. Like, literally, boom. What did that... yeah. Oh, I see. It is basically for Instagram shit. If you want to share to Instagram, I guess, this makes it easy. That's dumb. I don't want that. Then you also have export PDF, which is really only good if you're 100% sure you like the format and everything like that. Even then, I wouldn't recommend doing that because some agents are super picky about what format everything is in. So PDF is kind of like not very flexible. Download Markdown is you get a text file with your entire book in Markdown format. So that is good for uploading to certain HTML-based websites. I do believe basically fictionpress.com and AO3 might be the only times when that's going to be useful. Most people don't really use Markdown. I don't really understand. I guess some formatting software might use Markdown, but I honestly think that's just easier to import a docx. Then you have copy as HTML, which is literally just the thing formatted as HTML code. That is handy for blogs and whatnot, so that is actually nice. Then copy as Markdown. Actually, let me see something. Let me see how messy this is, actually. Oh, actually, it's not super bad. It's very clean. It does give you a block, so it's kind of difficult to find what you need, but, ooh, even it has H1 tags, so that's actually nice. I still would prefer that I'd be able to download an HTML file. Then copy as Markdown is basically the same as download Markdown, only you're copying it instead, which I do not understand the point of, again. Then copy as rich text. You missed the part where I tried it, but basically what happens is you copy it, you paste it into a doc, and it does keep the formatting, but strips all the indentation for some reason. Do not ask me why, it just does. Then export to AO3, which is basically you hook your account up and it exports into AO3 as... I'm too afraid to hit this button. I do have an AO3 account that I would rather not upload new stuff to unless I'm very conscious about it, so... Gavin says, and during the sprint, I ate an apple and some cheese and opened my document. There you go. He also says, apparently you can share docs in Campfire, you just can't work on them at the same time like Google Docs. Oh, so basically, I can share it. Can they... So, when they're shared, do people only have the option to edit, or can they suggest, like in Google Docs? Like... If they make a change to the doc, does it show up as track changes, or is it just like there? Because that's also a thing that I kind of need. Like I need to be able to see Beta's comments as suggestions rather than as looking through and there's an edit somewhere in the middle of it. he also says, I understand. I love Google Docs interface, but hate the policies. Right? I know that Proton Docs is a possible alternative. It's just not made for writers. Neither is Google Docs, admittedly, but that might be something that I might look into next whenever I continue the experiment. Or if Ellipsis just turns out to be too clunky for my needs. Like right now, I had mentioned this earlier in the chat, but right now it's not super bad, but one of the things that I really miss is being able to store different, like, I would love to be able to, actually let me see if this is a lie before I say anything. But basically, I used to work in Scrivener, which had its own, let me see something real quick. No, okay. Yeah, I'm looking around and seeing if I can share an entire folder with people instead of just one doc. But it doesn't look like it can, which is kind of shitty. But basically, when I used to work in Scrivener, what I would do is I would have each chapter in its own subfolder and put each scene in cards so that you would have all these docs, which are separate scenes, within a folder that was a chapter, within a folder that was the entire novel. And this made exporting a bitch, but it also made things a little bit easier because I could export chapters at a time and then upload them to Google Docs so that there were docs, there was a version of the story that was super easy to load. It's kind of moot because all the betas just went to the full doc and didn't actually, I think only one person had started on the individual chapters, but I haven't heard from them in a while. So there's that. But like when you have a shit ton of words on something that saves to the cloud, it is a bitch to load, in other words. So like that is something that I'm keeping an eye on, because Ellipsis kind of loads a little bit slower than Google Docs. It also does this really dumb thing where it just decides to save locally instead of syncing to the cloud, like I just had to do right there. But you know, I do like it better than Google Docs so far, but we'll see how I feel about it as we go a little bit further into the draft, and we'll see if I need to switch over to something else, in other words. Gavin says Markdown can also easily be exported to other document types. So I've heard, I've never been able to, like, I don't really normally use Markdown, so I haven't really been able to play with it enough to see if it actually makes things easier. You know, if it makes it easier to just like paste it into DOCX and then convert it to formatting or whatnot. So Reina says, I know for the HTML, the bold, italics, and dividers all get transposed well. Yeah, so far, like, I did the copy into a Notepad, and it seems pretty clean, which is shocking for a doc. Like, I don't know if you've ever tried to export, like, DOCX to HTML, but it is a fucking mess. Just like any sort of export, easy export, tends to be like a mess and a half. I say this as somebody who has to actually proofread all that shit for a living and like fix issues that occur when you have a DOCX that's converted to HTML. It is the messiest conversion that you could possibly have. So to see a writing program actually do it very cleanly is my jam. I do like that. Thank you for doing that, Ellipsis. Rena says, oh, I use Snippet all the time for daily poems. See, that's fair. If you're going to regularly use like an image heavy platform like Instagram or whatnot, it's I'm sure it's certainly a boon rather than trying to make new graphics in Canva and whatnot and trying to like put text on things that probably aren't actually made to have a lot of text on them. That is a nice option for sure. Personally, I'm probably not going to be using it that often. Because honestly, you cannot get me to go back to Instagram if you tried, and I am very I'm very simple on B-Sky. Like, I like to make actual screenshots of my working doc and just post it on if I do snippets. But with Insta, yeah, basically I'm just there to see like a handful of things, like the indie band that I really like who's not on anywhere else, and like a couple of things, but that's it. Like, I'm there to lurk, not actually post. Linikets. Oh, there was a bit. That was a little weird. A little hiccup. Linikets says, I'm trying to work on a quick summary to reshape a story idea that I keep messing with. But I did just figure out how to shift a plot point to make things work. Heck yeah, for figuring things out. Linikets says, I think a lot of online editors can use Markdown. Railroad, Tapas, Wattpad, maybe not Tapas. Oh, okay. So that's why that's a popular thing. I guess because my posting place of choice has always been AO3, I'm more used to like HTML. And I think even when I was using Wattpad, I was doing HTML instead of Markdown. I don't know, it was just a little bit more control for me. But I can definitely see why that would be a thing that people use. I haven't really played with Royal Road, but I have heard that its editor is supposed to be extremely straightforward. So that makes a lot of sense. Gavin says there are also offline Markdown editors. Totally understandable. Companion Wolf says, Obsidian, are we talking Obsidian? Markdown edition that's offline IRC, Markdown editor. Gavin says, I don't know about when it comes to Obsidian, we're actually talking about the capabilities of Ellipsis. So, like, for some reason it has a copy as Markdown option, but I personally don't use Markdown that often, so I don't know where somebody might be able to use it, or why it would be a little bit more beneficial than just having a button that will export to DOCX. But if there are reasons to use it, then totally. Gavin apparently brought up that there are editors for Markdown, which is definitely cool. I fully support having different options to do different things. And I have heard of Obsidian, but like I said, I prefer not using Markdown because I don't fully understand the benefit of using Markdown over HTML or just formatting and exporting as DOCX. That's basically it, really. It also strikes me as a little strange that you don't have an option to export as DOCX on a platform, on a tool that was created for writers. So I'm kind of curious to know what the logic is behind that. Same thing with actually export as HTML. But anyway, Gavin says, I don't know about track changes. Admittedly, I've never used the share feature, but I know that people you share with can make comments. See, that's fine. If they can highlight and like leave a comment, I think that should be fine. That is like BetaBooks basic. I don't know if anybody's used BetaBooks. That is a beta platform. As a writer, I do like using BetaBooks because it's very clean and it's very easy to use. But as a beta, I prefer not to. Because all too often, a lot of people don't use the paid version, which is totally understandable. Like, I, for one, do not use the paid version, and I prefer avoiding using paid versions whenever possible because I'm cheap as hell. But like, if you don't use the paid version, then your betas are basically restricted to leaving chapter-wide comments, which is a bitch and a half. If they're allowed to use like inline comments or kind of like track changes, or if they're allowed to use inline comments, then that's a little bit closer to what BetaBooks Pro, like the paid version, is. BetaBooks will also, if I recall correctly, allow you to do track changes, but they'll also the biggest thing is that they'll let you highlight and add a comment wherever you highlighted. So it's really fun. Reno says, I've gone at least 2 levels down a folder, so you need to remember to make the first folder before you start a doc. Oh, okay. Then I might do that. Like, I might transfer I might make a folder and then transfer the current doc over, and then we'll see what happens. Unless, of course, it's just easier for people to follow along with the full doc, then I'll just stick here and then see what happens. Gavin says, in Campfire you can share an entire project or an individual document in a project. Please note, though, that Campfire isn't free. There's a free version, but it's really limited. You can do a subscription or buy lifetime access. That's what I did. Yeah, I mean, I'll check out the paid tiers. The main reason why I I joke and say that I'm cheap as hell, but the actual reason is not to like hash out the entire story to everybody, but my ex, who I've mentioned way back when I was talking about ace things in my relationship and why the Nameless song is about my joy as an ace person in a relationship. It was born from that relationship, even though it fell apart very quickly. And the way that it fell apart is basically my ex had put us both into massive amounts of debt, but because a lot of that debt, either I was the primary card holder or he talked me into taking out in my name for him, what he did basically was dump all that debt onto me and then skip town and then block my number. So I am currently struggling with a lot of debt, so if I can get away with doing things for free. This is also why I have not really seriously put much thought into self-publishing, and why I will very, very passionately defend in, trad publishing as an option, because it's the struggle. So if it's a cheap license, I do pay for Final Fantasy 14 every month, which is for me an $18 subscription because retainers. And I'm not ashamed of that, at least. So if it's only a little bit more on top of that a month, or only a little bit more overall, then fine. But yeah, it is very much trying to find cheap ways of doing things for now until I get back on my feet and pay down the debt that asshole left me. But that is personal stuff, and I do apologize for getting personal on the writing stream, but I guess it gives you context as to what I would talk about sometimes on Blue Sky, about, being cheap as hell and hanging in there with work, aka overtime, and just in general dealing with a lot at once. So, and why writing is such a haven for me, but also it has been really difficult to come back to. So there's that. I do apologize again, for getting all weird about that. Point is, I will definitely take a look at Campfire and see what my options are, and hopefully it won't be too bad. Actually, fuck it, I'm gonna look at it anyway. Okay, here we go. What the crap? Manuscript at for the free version, it's 25,000 free words. What? That is a little bit spicy. That is a little bit not cool that the free version is that restricted, but you know, let's see. Monthly subscription. Monthly subscription is $2 a month, so that's not too bad. Annual subscription is $16 a year, and lifetime purchase. Oh, lifetime purchase is only $45. And then what are the rest of these prices? Like, is it like modules and you buy modules to get unlimited? Because if so, then that's fine. Like, 45 is really not that bad, and a lot of the stuff that I'm looking at is just stuff that I think would be a lot easier to do in a different, like, I might use Scrivener to take notes on all of these and actually put up the manuscript itself just by paying that $45 for the unlimited version. Like, that's really all I would need is the unlimited version. So that's pretty cool at the very least. So it's not super bad. $45 is, like, to give you context, $45, I don't want to say it's a grocery bill in New York City because that makes it sound terrible, like a weekly grocery bill, but it literally is just that. I say just that, but like when you think about it as like a one-time purchase for something that you're going to use forever, that you're going to have fun with, that's going to be useful to you, then one grocery bill isn't super... if you're in a position where you can give up one thing, I guess a better way of putting it, yeah, like, I do have enough money that if I said, okay, I guess, you know, I can give up the equivalent of one grocery bill, then that's fine, you know, because, like, in the grand scheme of things, like, rent is $1,800 a month. $45 is like money is tight, but yeah. Anyway, going back up. Gavin says completely understandable and no need to apologize. Leah says self-pub is definitely expensive. I've actually finished the primary edits of my book I was working on, but my project has stalled due to money. I have a lot of major art, but there were other things I wanted to get together, and it's sigh. Yeah, but basically, you are so right. It really is. A lot of people are like, I don't understand what the point is to self-publishing. It's sort of like, how are you fucking self-publishing then? Like, the problem with self-pub is if you don't plop out the money, and by that I mean a lot of money, then you are limiting the distribution and the way the book looks. So you're basically, somebody on VSky, bless their hearts, told me that they can go and get an image off of Unsplash and slap it on a cover, and there's your cover. And you can have, like, very boxy cover designs, and I really held my tongue in because I didn't want to say this looks really bad for a book cover. But yeah, basically, like, there's a lot that goes into a professional looking book cover. Like, if you want to do a fantasy novel, and you can go that route and, like, get free art. Even technically, you're not supposed to even do the free art that way. Like, if you actually look at the licenses for the stuff on Unsplash, you should actually be paying for every photo that you get off of there that you put on book cover, because most of that most of the photography on Unsplash and stuff like that, it's only free if you're not actually commercializing on it. Like, the entire point is you're not supposed to be putting it on stuff that you sell. Like, if you want to do like a little graphic, like if you want to do like a little mood board and you put it up for free on your Blue Sky account, that's fine. Nobody's going to fault you for that. That's, you do you. But the second you put it on something that you sell, you are actually violating copyright, and you should be getting the paid version. So there's that. Just so you know, art costs money. Like, if you get art that isn't yours and you put it on a book cover, you should be buying it. Just so you know. Just so you all know. You cannot, like, download somebody else's art and put it on a book cover. Period. Do not do that. Stop doing that. But yeah, cover art costs money. Hiring artists costs money. If you want it designed for you, that costs money. If you can do it yourself, totally okay, but it's going to look a little bit weird because you might not have the skills to fit text on somebody else's art in a way that actually looks unified. So that costs money. Book layout is something that you might be able to get away with by doing yourself. But if you really want to do quality, you have to pay for the licenses for the software. I've done this rant before last week, I know, but I'm still going to go through it because it really needs to be impressed upon people that self-publishing costs a lot of money if you do it right. So there's that. So we're getting into like the actual creation of the book. We've already covered cover design. We've covered the interior layout. Editors all cost money, and you should be getting editors. You cannot rely on just beta readers or yourself. Proofreaders, you could probably proofread on your own, so there's that. Typesetting, as I said, that's the layout design. If you want interior art, that costs money, unless you do it yourself and you're an amazing artist enough to do it yourself. Normally, interior art you can probably get away with if you have the art skills. You can probably get away with doing that yourself, but a lot of self-published authors actually commission other artists to do that for them. Now let's get into the printing of the book. Now, there are options that will cost you quote-unquote zero money, but then they take a cut of your royalties. I do believe that Amazon is like this. You can technically put up a book that they print for you on demand, but as a trade-off, they will take a part of the every sale that you make, they will take a portion of those, and whatever you get left is your royalties. So there's that. But some places will charge you for every sample book that they send out to you. So there's something to be aware of in that. If you do ebook only, that's fine. You will still get a cut of royalties, of course. And in any case, the actual place where you do get, so basically if you do ebook only, you are also limiting yourself. Distribution itself also costs money because if you want a wide distributor, a lot of the places that do wide distribution will cost money to do the distribution for you. Like Ingram Spark, there is a base level fee, or Ingram, there's a base level fee that you have to pay in order to have them do your book or distribute your book. But if you don't go through them, then you might not be able to get into bookshops, for example, because a lot of bookshops will not buy just from anywhere. They buy from specific lists that go through these places. I know that one of the self-published authors on Tumblr had talked about this once, where Barnes & Noble would not publish somebody's book because it did not go through Ingram. But hers did, so therefore she was able to get Barnes & Noble. So yes, you can get into Barnes & Noble, but it's only through specific lists. Doing a wide distribution also means that you heighten the likelihood that you'll be visible to libraries as well. So, you're spending money in order to make sure that you're picked up. ISBNs, technically, they do cost money as well. You can buy in bulk and take down the price like a little bit. Like, I can't remember off the top of my head, but it is very expensive to buy ISBNs, all things considered. Supposedly you can get them for free, quote unquote, if you do like certain distributions. Like, God, what is that one that everybody goes through with self-publishing? But it's a little bit shady as well, because then you fuck around with rights. It begins with an S, but in any case, yeah, that is a little bit iffy. So, like, there are so many different hidden costs that not a lot of people are very aware of when they talk about self-publishing. And the thing about trad publishing is you skip all of that, like, because, like, you have one team in-house in a trad publisher who will do all that for you. You have somebody who will do the cover design, usually the art on the cover design. I know that there's been some joking around about AI art. That happens with the big five because the big five are trash fires, but like, most other publishing houses will have actual people doing the design for you, including the art. It's fantastic. They'll even like buy, how I was talking just a moment ago about going on to Unsplash, and you technically need a license to buy a license to use a certain picture. Trad publishing houses will do that for you, and they have a wider range of stuff that they can do that with. Like, it's not just like, they won't just go on Unsplash. They might have like access to, I don't know, Getty or something like that. I can't remember what the image warehouse that the first indie pub that I worked for had, but it was definitely like different from anything that most people would actually use, because it was completely, there was no free option on that website. Like, everything had licenses attached to them, and they were very expensive licenses. But it's fine because we were a publishing company. We could buy those licenses for you and use whatever we wanted. You will have, so like I said, you will have designers to do that for you. You will have editors in-house who are paid to look over your manuscript. Multiple of them in a normal publishing timeline. So you'll have editors, you'll have proofreaders sometimes, even indexers if you're into that, I don't know. You'll have the quote-unquote marketing team, which a lot of people think is, oh, they're going to be advertising for you. No, they're not doing that. What they're doing is they're advertising to booksellers and saying, hey, we have this book, do you want it? They'll be negotiating with they'll be like liaising between the warehouse, which they will also have for you, so they'll have the distribution as well. They'll be liaising between the warehouse and the endpoint booksellers like Barnes & Noble, Indigo, Waterstone, every indie bookshop that they happen to have a relationship with. They'll be like, hey, we have this list. This is our list for this upcoming season. Tell us what you want, and we'll get it for you. And then they'll go over to the warehouse and be like, hey, this is the list of people who want this book. Send them this many books. So it's like, that's what they do. Is technically sales and marketing. You might have different departments for that. A lot of the smaller indies will have them as the same people. So there's that. You'll also have a production line, which will do the one thing that most people don't really think about, and that is working with the printer. So if you want to do weird shenanigans like sprayed edges, or if you want to have specific kinds of paper or something like that, or if you want to do weird things with the hardcover, book jackets, book boxes, you name it, the production team will handle that for you. So it's like all these little things that would normally be inaccessibly and prohibitively expensive for the average self-published author to do, the trad pub or the traditional publisher will do for them. So that is the use of traditional publishing. Like if you want to do something and you don't have the money to do it, get an agent and go find a traditional publisher. If you do have the money, then have at it. Like be as anarchist as you want and put your book out there via self-publishing. So that is what's going on. But the point is, Lena Ket, I am very glad that you've mentioned this. Yes, it is very expensive, and I feel that so much. That is literally why. That is also kind of why I'm glad I'm rewriting the Nameless Song from the ground up, besides the fact that the original, or the fourth draft, which is the draft that we've just left, is a complete dumpster fire that people said they kind of liked vaguely, but in actuality 2 out of 3 betas who have finished it so far fucking ripped it apart. One of those was like really kind of like yikes about it, wherein their end comment was like, I liked this, but also here are 7 paragraphs of all the shit that I hated about this that nearly made me DNF it. And I'm like, thanks. Like, I watch people who have betas in there, or some people on like Blue Sky are like, here's what the betas say, and it's like glowing praise, and meanwhile I have like literal hundreds of comments telling me what I did wrong, and that's why it's been so difficult to come back. Don't get me wrong though, like I love one of my betas. Like he was not the one who was like, I like this, but here's 7 paragraphs. There was one who was like, there's so much potential in this, but there are a lot of places where you need it just needs to be tightened up. You know, and here's my very detailed opinion about what's going on. And that was so valuable to work off of, because like it gave me a clear direction. So it's easier. But this is an entire tangent and I'm getting way off topic. The point is, like, I'm rewriting the Nameless Song because of that mostly, but it's also a blessing in disguise because like I am not financially ready to do anything with this. Like, if I want to self-publish because I feel like it would be a beautiful book to self-publish, and I feel like it would do so much better as a self-published book. But I only have the money to give it to somebody else and to forego a lot of my say in what the end product looks like. But I'm also not at that point yet either, because in order to get to that point, I would need to have time in order to be able to hammer out query letters and put together query packages and send off all that to traditional publishers and agents, really. But unfortunately, because of dick fuck, most of my time is basically spent throwing myself and killing myself over this one job and trying to make overtime so that I'd be able to keep afloat, essentially. So it's like my 3-year goal right now is to pay off dick fuck's mistakes. And then after that, I'd be a little bit freer to figure out what I want to do with the Nameless Song. But I'm very glad that this draft is giving me that time to figure things out. And the only downside is, like, I have to keep on continuously telling myself, like, I'm not young. I might sound like it right now, but, like, I've revealed multiple times that I'm a 90s child. And I've spent most of my adult life working on fan fiction, so a lot of ways I feel like I've been wasting my time. And one of the things that I've been trying to do is like go after my dreams because I feel like I'm running out of time to do that. But I also need to convince myself that the entire concept of running out of time is a myth. Like, you can do any of this in your 40s as well, and it's perfectly fine. 3 years from now, I will be just approaching my 40s. Not to age myself or to make people feel at all surprised about how old I am. But it does make me think a lot, Sorry to get a little bit emotional, but like, I feel between the pandemic occurring in my early-ish 30s and having a partner who couldn't rein in himself and take fiscal responsibility, I feel like there's this entire decade where I should have been taking off run, or I should have just gotten my shit figured out, and I'd be able, I feel like my 20s were a mess. Like, I was like still figuring out the entire adulthood thing, and 30s was supposed to be when I figured things out and built on that and finally worked towards, some kind of stability and some kind of dream. But I feel like I've missed that kind of thing between pandemic and dick fuck. But at the same time, it's kind of a myth. Like, there's no late time to do any of this. It's just that it feels like it because I'm getting older and I've, either the country has made decisions or I've made decisions that did not propel me forward. Not to make it sound like a selfish thing or anything like that, but it's like, of course you would feel stuck whenever, the country spent a few years stuck, and then your partner basically threw you backwards in terms of career development and money. So yeah, of course it feels like I'm spinning around. But anyway, Gavin says, like I said, very limited in reference to Campfire. Lena says, I think I've checked out Campfire before, but the free version was so restricted that I couldn't really get a feel for it if it would work for me. Gavin says, little hiccup. Let me just scroll back up. Yes, exactly. I own them all, but only really use characters, calendar, timeline, locations, encyclopedia, and manuscript. See that? I wouldn't even need to use that. Like, I do have Scrivener. I swear to God I'm going to continue using it because, like, I paid for that thing. I'm going to be using it until the day I die. But it has no sharing option. If I could use, like, Campfire for my manuscript and Scrivener for my notes, that would be perfect. Like, it would be a perfect marriage. So really, I only really need to use manuscript, but it is cool that the other options are available. I am kind of curious if, actually, that's an obvious question. I'm looking at the pricing range right now, and like, sure, there's, it's kind of obvious that you still get the free options if you pay for one option. So like, I still will get 10 free characters, 20 free events on the timeline, and so on and so forth. So really, those parts are all I need. And then everything else I can either use Scrivener or, I just need the manuscript. So that's really cool. Lenika says, I thought it was more expensive than that. Maybe I was looking at something else. Gavin says, $45 is just the manuscript module. To get the other modules, you would need to pay more. Lenika says, I've got a banger cover and it was expensive. All caps. Not sure if I should advertise this person's cost, but yikes. That was my largest cost, but that was just the art, not even the design. Honestly, that makes a lot of sense. Like, a lot of artists, especially cover artists, are they're very expensive. Like I think the lowest price I've ever seen was like $200 for a full cover art. So if it was more than that, I am not surprised at all. Like I don't remember how much Travis Baldry had paid for Legends and Lattes cover, but I would not pay less than $7.50 for that. And when I say $7.50, I do not mean like $7.50. I mean $750 minimum. So, because a lot of work goes into art, like a full cover art, that's a lot of work. And if you're asking them to design on top of that, like add in the text and, or even like do wraparound covers and things like that, that takes a lot of skill. So, and a lot of hours. So 100%, like they should get the amount of money that they well deserve. So I don't think it's very shameful. If they're very costly. I think it should be expected that they're very costly. Companion Wolf says, yeah, regarding Unsplash, if you get money, you got to compensate the photogs. Yes, exactly, but also that is literally like you are treading into legal issues if you use Unsplash images on your cover and you haven't bought the license for it. Lena Ket says, yeah, as long as you aren't doing profit, it's not expensive. Selling means you gotta get a commercial license. Yes, exactly, pretty much. Gavin says, yes, you need to pay creators for their work if you're going to make more money. Yes, absolutely. Lena Ket says, ISBNs cost money too. Yes. Fairy Raindrops. Hello. They say, hi, updated my YouTube app for this. Hello. Self-pub is unnecessarily difficult and has such an upfront cost. It's rough. Yes. Thank you. 100%. And I am so happy because, like, in writing communities, we always talk about, or you always see people talking about self-pub as if it's like this miracle solution, like something that everybody can and should do over TradPub, and TradPub is utterly useless. How dare, like, it's corporate, ew, whatnot. But like, no, they're both valid options, and self-pub is not accessible. Self-pub is only accessible if you have the money for it. TradPub is accessible if you have the time for it. There are two different things. The Cat says, LOL, yeah, I know the expense, always did, but for this particular book, that is my only option since it was released as a web serial. I can go trad with something else, but not this one. Totally understandable. Leah Cat says, that's an absolute mood, the feeling of time running out. $200 sounds cheap to me. Yeah, I think I saw that on Inkit, I want to say. Let me see. Not Inkit. What was the, God damn, I am just blanking. But there is a marketplace, there's a website that advertises itself as the go-to marketplace for all things publishing. And they also have, like, connections to artists and whatnot. And the artists can be a little bit hit and miss. Mostly miss. So, $200, yeah. On the one hand, yes, that is extremely low. Please, like, if you're a cover designer and you know which website I'm talking about, and you're on that website and your price is $200, please love yourself. That's all I'm going to say to you. Please love yourself. Love yourself and up your price. Like, minimum absolutely should be $300. On that note, Fairy Raindrop says my cover was around $300 to $400, I think, for a 2-character front cover with the background, no characters used as the back cover, but it was also coming from an artist who doesn't typically do cover art. I was about to say, yeah, $300 minimum sounds right. And even $300 is a little bit low, but for a cover designer who does, or for an artist who doesn't normally do cover designs, that kind of sounds also right. I still wish that they, well, I'm also glad that they gave you a decent price, but yeah, if they ever do it again, I hope that they do consider upping their prices. Lena Ket says, my big one was over $2,000. That actually sounds a little bit more in line with professional cover, like legit professional covers. Working on the inside of the industry, knowing what the artist has to pay for, like I said, some of the licenses that you get for art if you're using like Photog, or if you're just like using professional tools, then you're paying pro licenses, and that's a lot of money as well. So a lot of that's going into like doing better quality book covers. So like $2,000 does sound about right for something. It's still a little bit on the higher end, but that sounds about right for a professional done book cover. Fairy Raindrop says, but they also ended up being difficult to work with and later ghosted me when I tried to contact them about book 2 cover, which we discussed beforehand. Yikes. So that explains why that's on the low end. But also, yikes, like, even if you're not doing cover art, that's a little bit unprofessional behavior, and I'm sorry that they ghosted you like that. Especially if, you know, you were going to give them more money for more covers, so that sucks. But hopefully you didn't pay for book 2's cover. Lena Cat says, yeah, I would try to work with primarily professionals because I got burned by less professional artists, so I paid a premium. See, that's what happens. You get what you pay for, essentially, and in this case, it is a very good you get what you pay for. Fairy Raindrop says, this was an artist I had greatly admired and commissioned for personal art in the past, so this was a disappointment. Oh, that's even worse. I am really sorry that they gave you the runaround like that. That really sucks. But yeah, like, the more, when it comes to book covers, yeah, 100%, the more money you pay, the better your results. I wish I could remember, what did Travis Baldry say? Fairy Raindrop says, I've reached the point as an artist where I can try to start doing my own covers, but it's going to be a whole learning curve. I wish you the best of luck. If you can do that, that would be fabulous, though. Like, you gain skills, and honestly, what Lena Ket said about how, in her experience, the book cover was the most expensive, that is not just Lena Ket's experience. Typically speaking, the most expensive thing that you will pay for when you're self-publishing the book is the book cover. And I know this is coming from somebody who has not yet self-published, but it is coming from somebody who knows a little bit about publishing costs and can say, yeah, it makes sense that the cover is the most expensive thing. Like, you can do whatever the fuck you want on the interior. You can, like, and if you tried hard enough, I do not recommend doing this, but if you tried hard enough, you can format your books in fucking Word. Like, you can do the page layout in Microsoft fucking Word by yourself, and it'll still turn out a-okay. But you cannot do that with the cover. And on top of that, editors are a little bit pricey, but they're never as pricey as a full-on cover artist. To give you an idea, the average freelance price, or the average price of a freelance editor is $35 an hour. Usually $40 if you really want to get a good one. Some of them will pay by word, and I don't remember the word count off the top of my head, but it does add up even more if you do it that way. But nonetheless, like, it's still not as expensive as a cover artist. So if you can manage to do the cover yourself, that will cut off a huge amount of your budget. It would be fantastic. Barry Raindrops says, yeah, typically it covers an editing or the biggest wallet records. Yep, basically. Like everything else, like I said, you can do self-taught. You can do self-taught stuff, and it'll turn out a-okay. Like you can design a book interior, and you can get it to look all right. Now, I will admit, to Gavin's point, book layout in Word, ew, no thanks. Yes, don't do it in Word. Like, if you can avoid doing it in Word, that would be fantastic. Put it this way, Word is very limited in what it can do for you. It is not a book design software at all. It is a word processor. What it is meant to do, it is basically put words on a page, on an 8x11 page. That is all it's meant to. That is all it is designed for. Anything else, it will look like very amateurish crap. But software such as InDesign, or Lena Cat actually just brought up Vellum. Lena Cat says, I have Vellum, but for formatting books, Atticus is actually not that expensive at all for interior formatting. Yes, Vellum and Atticus are excellent InDesign, not knockoffs, but InDesign competitors, which I would highly recommend because InDesign is a very great piece of software, but it's dopey. Like, I learned how to format books on InDesign, and I still miss InDesign every day. I have played around with, like, the free version, or, like, the free trials of Vellum, and I haven't gotten into Atticus yet, but Vellum for sure. I've tried, even, like, the free trial for Quark. That's how bad I was trying to find a good InDesign software, but sadly, so far, it's more of like I need to suck it up and choose something other than InDesign, even though I love InDesign. But that is all a tangent. The point is, book formatting software is not that difficult to use, and it is designed for creating good interiors. And you might ask yourself, well, what's the difference? The difference is basically there are tools in software like InDesign and Vellum that enable you to place text exactly where you need it to go. So, like, it's not like the text is the only thing. In Word, like, you cannot move text. It is there on the page. It is straight on down one column, and that one column is basically meant to fit an 8x11 piece of paper. You can modify the margins all you want, but it's still designed for an 8x11 piece of paper. But with InDesign and all software like it, it is text, pieces of text are design elements. So it's supposed to, or it has tools that allow you to flow text where you need it to be in whatever shape that you want. Is your book smaller, as it will be because you're writing a novel? Then that's fine. We will shape it into that smaller 8.5 by 5 space that most novels tend to be. Do you want something a little bit more magazine-y? Do you want art elements in? That's no problem whatsoever. We can do that for you. That is what book design software is meant to do. So I would highly recommend finding a good piece of software and paying the license, because there is no such thing as a free knockoff. This is not this is not Photoshop, where you have GIMP, you have Photopea, you have all these other pieces of software that work just as well. There is no free book design software out there, so you're gonna have to suck it up and you're gonna have to pay a license. That being said, we do have chatter in the chat about how much book design software is. First off, Companion Wolf says, imagine getting paid by the hour and not by the story. paid by the hour is actually a very good model. Now, paid by the word is an even better model, because like if you can figure out how much your value is per word, I do believe it's like 10 cents per word. Let me actually look this up. Let's see. Here we go. From the Editorial Freelancers Association for 2023. Here we go. Oh, what the hell? They forwarded me to the stupid ass thing. But basically, please do not forward me to your main page again. It did. Fantastic. Apparently, editorial rates. The average editorial rates. Here we go. Here we go. All right. Copy editing tends to be 2 cents per word for nonfiction. Now that seems a little bit low, but then you also have to remember that novels are not just one word. They are usually 50,000 minimum. So when you're paying by word, let us do some math here. Let me pull up the calculator, because I definitely did not fail at least one math course in primary school. So we've got 2 cents per word for, let's say, your novel's 75,000. That is $1,500 straight up for 75,000 word novel. So that's not bad. Now, let's also take a look at paying by hour, just as a comparison's sake. Like I said, it is paying by hour. The average rate is about $35 to $40 an hour. So 75,000 words generally is about, that's all right. 75,000 words. So let's say that's about 300 pages altogether, right? So 300 pages times 40, you get only about $340. Still a little bit low, but you know. No, that's not right. I'm sorry. 300 pages. Let's say you do 7 pages per hour. That's 42 hours times 40. Let's say you do 35. That's it's 43 hours of work essentially times 35. There we go. Is about 50. It's comparable. It's $1,500 if you do it hourly compared to per word. It really depends. Like, I'm giving you ballpark estimates, but generally speaking, both are very valid models. I personally, when I used to freelance, I preferred to do hourly for 2 reasons. Number one, publishing companies prefer that their freelancers do hourly. So all of my professional publishing clients would pay me $25 to $35 per hour that I spent on a project. Yes, 25. That was the shitty one that replaced me with AI. The normal authorial clients, though, or like not normal, but like the individual authorial clients, the people who came to me with their manuscripts that they wanted to have published, it was just a lot easier to say I am paid $35 per hour instead of 2 cents per word. And because strangely, that is a lot less intimidating, because if you give them 2 cents, oh, I'm paid 2 cents per word, what they're ending up doing is that means something to them. They'll look at their word count and they'll go, oh no, that is too expensive for me. But if you say I'm paid $35 per hour and I read 7 to 10 pages per hour, they have no idea what that means. So that is like one little tip. Lena Kit says, I have both Atticus and Vellum, but Atticus tends to be lag and is browser-based. Interesting. Okay, so I am going to shy away from Atticus, though though Gavin says apparently Atticus is only 150. That is inexpensive, right? A lot of the software licenses aren't super duper expensive. It's only when you get to the big name proprietary software like Adobe or Microsoft, then you start to see the numbers. But yeah. Fairy Raindrop says, I've never done formatting. I find it super intimidating, but I really need to learn. Right, that gets back to what we were talking about earlier. It is not actually that difficult to learn formatting. There is a little bit of learning involved, as in learning how the software that you choose works. But if you can figure out how image software works, you can figure out how book layout software works. The only difference is you will be flowing in text, and you will have to fiddle around. There are two ways to do formatting with text. Like when I say formatting, I mean italics and bold and underline and so forth. You can either if you're working on LibreOffice or Microsoft Word or something like that, they actually have a tagging system. So what you can do is you can go into your manuscript and define the tags. Like you can go in and say, apply, or what this is basically instead of just using italics or something like that, you go back in and you say, okay, this is a style. I am defining the style. And it's sort of like you're defining normal italics as opposed to normal paragraph and stuff like that. So you go through and you define all of your styles, and then you go into the book formatting pane software, and you go in and you say, okay, I'm in the formatting pane now. Here is me defining what style goes where. I have these styles. I want to link to these styles. So whenever the software tells you, okay, this text is in normal italics, I want this to be italics. So it's very simple. I know that sounds like a lot. You can also just import and just like go through and reformat the text, but it is super simple. And linking is also, it can go wrong, but it's easy to fix and it's easy to learn and master. And when you get it right, it's so satisfying, because all of a sudden, like, you have all these amorphous blobs of writing that will behave exactly how you want to. It's very, very liberating to be able to do, and I encourage people to learn how to do it. And it's something that you can absolutely do yourself. It is the easiest thing to cut out of your budget. So Nika says, I believe Affinity Designer is the pay once and own it version of InDesign. Oh, I have not heard of Affinity Designer, but I'm going to have to check that out, because like I said, I loved InDesign. I loved working with it. It is the only Adobe product that I love and miss. Because like I can find replacements for everything else, or I just didn't like them in the first place. Like I kind of didn't like Photoshop, not gonna lie. But InDesign is the only one that I've never really been able to find a comparable software. So I will look at Affinity Designer. That would be very nice. Gavin says, yes, I own Affinity Designer. I have no idea how to use it, but I own it, lol. I would be delighted to teach people, like, do a stream of it. Like, whenever I get closer to a finished book, I would love to be able to do streams where I format books. Like, I used to do this as a hobby. For people who don't know, I actually got a grad degree in publishing. And it is the most useful degree ever. I highly recommend it. Please detect the sarcasm that I'm saying in my words. But basically, one of the courses, or a couple of the courses I actually had, were learning how to format books, both for print and for ebooks, back whenever ebooks were just getting started. So like I learned how to do all of this. Oh, I also did a course in magazine design because my grad degree track required me to do courses in print, in magazine, and in digital publishing. So I was basically working with everything. Magazine design was so much fun, by the way, because it is truly a lost art, or it's a dying art, but there's so much that goes into magazine design to make it look good. And it was incredible. Like, people need to appreciate magazines more, I think. Like, getting the colors to look right on glossy paper even was a challenge, and it was beautiful. It was so much fun to be in that class. But the point is, like, I learned how to use all aspects of InDesign, which is probably why I haven't been able to adapt well to any other software. But I would be delighted to show people how to design a book. But I mean, I'm still a little bit rusty with it. For a couple of years after I left grad school, I made a teeny tiny bit of money designing ebooks for fanfiction authors. So I did like a little bit of cover design. I would not try to do my own covers because they sucked, but I did the interiors, and designing something that would look good as both a print book and an ebook was a challenge in itself, but I had been able to do it, and I do miss doing it. I would need to dust off my skills in doing it, but once I get back in the saddle, I would be delighted to show streams and teach people how to do it. Because, you know, I'd love to be able to share that knowledge. Leah Cat says to Gavin, I share my Atticus login with a friend, and they use it for their work as well. They usually do more shorts and novellas. I found it laggy with my longer works. That's also good to know. Gavin says, gotcha, I need to find a good course for Affinity designer. Affinity Wolf says, I'm suffering is all. Gavin says, actually, it's Affinity publisher, not designer, that does book layouts. Also good to know. I will definitely check that out because I'm going to need it later on down the line. And fuck, maybe I might even try to make some money trying to do some book layouts for people. Who knows? Leon Cat says, ooh, yeah, sorry, I have the full suite, so I get confused which one is supposed to be which shows how often I've used them. Gavin says, I have the full suite as well. Leon Cat says, Vellum runs a Black Friday sale every year with deep discounts. I forget how much mine was, but it might have been half off at the time. Definitely good to know. Somebody remind me later on. Because I am definitely going to check out both Vellum and Atticus. Or not Atticus, but Affinity. We just established that Atticus is laggy. But anyway, this is a lot of publishing talk. I kind of feel like it's good for a writing chat. But yeah. It has also been an hour since we last wrote, so I should probably set up the last stream. Also, like, I just want to say also that I'm so glad that we're actually discussing self-publishing as well. Just like the logistics of it. Because, I don't know, like I said, it's very easy in writing communities to place self-publishing on a pedestal and just be like, anybody can do it. And then you have, this is how you end up with, like, an entire Amazon full of books that, not to shit on other writers, but, like, there are a lot of books out there, and you can tell that they were just, like, thrown together. Sure, thrown together with love, and there was effort put into them, but, like, when you go the free option, you can definitely tell in some cases. And not all books are just and not all books on the marketplace are created equal, and you can definitely tell. I have definitely seen books that have not been thoroughly and properly edited. I have seen books with very garish looking covers, and the worst part is a lot of the writers attach them. I'd talk to them, or I'd be talking to them, and they would not fully understand why their books don't really sell. And as difficult as it is to say, when you're on a marketplace, yeah, the cover does sell. That is why the cover is so important, why it's so expensive, other than the skill it takes to make one look good. It is a lot of your initial book sales have to do with your cover, and also with whether or not you've edited your blurb, though you can absolutely do that yourself, whether or not your interior is edited, whether it's been dev edited, how many pages you've managed to wrangle it down to, because like if you've got a 400 page fantasy novel, which is the most saturated genre in self-publishing, and it's got a shitty cover and it has not been dev edited, when I say shitty, I mean like you definitely have not paid for it. There might be clip art on the cover, who knows. There are vectors that you definitely haven't paid for, kind of fit together really badly, or it doesn't capture the right tone of the book, or you've slapped a photograph that you might not have bought the license for on the cover and put your title underneath it in white space in Comic Sans, or worse, papyrus or something like that. Like, all these are details that you wouldn't think would kill your sales, but they kind of would. And it's sad, but a book is not just the interior. That's the downside. Like, the heart and soul of the book is the interior, yes, but getting it off the shelves, you need something else. You need something more. And a lot of people don't really realize that either that period, or that it takes money to do something to get it off the shelf. So it's like, just saying everybody should self-publish is not a good thing is not a good solution for everybody. But also, like, it's very frustrating whenever we're not talking about logistics in the community, when we're saying, we're not talking about the values of different avenues and letting people make a decision. Like, when we're leaning so heavily into one because some misplaced version of, I don't know, feel-good philosophy, like well-meaning philosophy, every venue or every avenue has its own merits, and a lot of things is not just as simple as put book out. There are logistics that people don't really talk enough about. There are a handful of guides, but if the logistics are part of the average conversation, it would be so much easier for people to know, oh, that's something that I need to do research for, I need to do it now. Or, oh, I need to set aside money in order to get this done the way that I want it to be done. Or, oh, I need to think about what I want my book to look like because I want to have somebody else do it for me. Or on the traditional publishing side of things, oh, this is what a contract says, and this is what I want to argue for in order to get what I want out of this book deal. Or, this is what different positions in the publishing house do. This is who I'm going to have to talk to in order to get what I want to have my book to look like done. Because, like, a lot of people think that the traditional side of things is inflexible, or they think that X, Y, and Z do certain things when they actually don't. And it's like, there needs to be more education on all this stuff besides just, like, write book. Like, write book is just the initial process. And don't get me wrong, I love the support in the write book part. Like, I'm still in the write book part of things, and I would appreciate all the support I can possibly get. But there is so much else that we need to be aware of, and that there need to be conversations about on platforms like B-Sky, or there can always be conversations, but I also kind of feel like we shouldn't have a stigma about having these conversations, is what I'm saying. Like, you should be able to talk about traditional publishing without somebody being like, oh, well, there's no point in traditional publishing. Anybody who does it is only after the vanity. Shut the fuck up. Whoever thinks that, just shut the fuck up. There's value to every single avenue. I've gone off. I'm sorry. But point is, there's a lot that goes into publishing, period. And I'm so glad that we had this conversation. That having been said, it is 11:10, so we do have time for one more sprint. So if folks are still here with me after that entire rant, thank you. And thank you for being part of the publishing side of things. Also, thank you for introducing me to all kinds of new software that I'm going to check out after the session is done. But that having been said, let us shake off our fingers and get ready for that very last sprint. We'll begin at 11:15, I think, just to make things even and also give myself a little bit of a break to decompress after rants. Gavin says, love the publishing talk, also ready to sprint. Hell yeah. Alright. So, 11:15. Companion Will says, for my sprint, I will get water and do something fun since I did the other sprint's work. That's fair. Go and do something fun. For sure. Give yourself a break. On that note, 11:15, which means that we are hitting our last sprint. So, get back to your ducks if you haven't already. Shake out those fingers, crack your knuckles, take a deep breath, make sure you have some water, and get ready, get set, good luck, and here we go. If you're seeing buffering, I do apologize for that. Apparently, we've run into an interesting error message that is, what the crap? Apparently, YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. As such, video viewers will experience buffering. So, there's that. I apologize if you're seeing any hiccups. Excellent. So we shall continue. Thank you, Gavin. All right, and that is time. I got 444 words. How did everybody else do? Also, to Reynos. Reynos says I had hiccups earlier, but thought it was from the storm here. It could be either. I only just now got the warning that not enough video was coming across. But even that, like right now, it says that the stream status is excellent. So, but also I hadn't super duper been paying attention to the studio panel, so I'm not sure if I was getting the notification earlier. Who knows? It is a fun adventure for all of us, this whole streaming thing. But other than that, you know, how's everybody else doing with the stream? Or with the sprint, not the stream. Like, we're at the end of the stream. If there are any issues, I will figure them out later. We don't have to figure this out now. Leacat says 224 words, but I am in deep summary mode, which is somewhat more difficult for me. Understandable. There's something about actually summarizing rather than getting into the thick of shenanigans, so fair enough. Reno says 200 words. Excellent progress. Basis got quite distracted, lol, but I got a few more paragraphs on my outline. Those few more paragraphs is still excellent progress, so excellent job, Bay. Anything to report from Gavin or Companional? Also, I apologize if you're not Gavin. I can't even. Feel free to correct me, is what I'm trying to say. Companional says, I'm making characters from my solo game. That is excellent. That does sound like a lot of fun. But yeah, so in terms of this week, it's going to be Gavin says, I spent the sprint getting lost in the rabbit hole of Affinity tutorials. I am so sorry that we inflicted a lack of progress on you. I hope that you were able to figure a few things out, though. I am quite interested in taking a look at Affinity myself and, you know, seeing folks and what folks come up with for their stuff. But that having been said, this week, as I was about to say, is going to be quite interesting. Wednesday through Friday is going to be one of the larger events for my company this year. I don't want to say too much about what I do for a living, but to put it in brief, I work for a company that does educational events of a certain nature, and these are very big events. Like, people, I'm talking about attendances of hundreds of people, which means that I will be working overtime for those days. But also, it's going to be a D&D session on the 9th, and I need to do prep work for that. So I'm still going to be making progress on this. I swear to God, I am going to finish this chapter by the end of the week and then get started on 2. And hopefully it'll be a faster progress than what I've been experiencing, because this is supposed to be a fast draft, Jesus Christ. But in any case, like I said, that is why Monday or Tuesday is probably going to be our next stream. Which is to say either tomorrow or Tuesday, or both. We'll see if I have the energy for both. Keep an eye on Blue Sky and Discord for any announcements regarding this. I will let you know if there's going to be a stream tonight or if there's not. We will eventually work towards having a set day. But with work as it is, and work is going to be hell until about summer, and right about then is when I'm sure that the Final Fantasy FC will make decisions on when we do things. So there's a lot of balls in the air still, but right about summer is when you're probably going to get a solid word as to what we're doing in terms of weekly stuff. Which I know sounds like a long time away, but considering the fact that we're right now in April, it's not super duper bad. Let's be real, guys. So, in any case, most likely tomorrow we'll be having another stream. Keep an eye out for that. If that happens, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up because it is currently 11:42, and I would love to have a little snack and then wind down for bed, or definitely not log into Final Fantasy and see what's up. But if I see you tomorrow, I will see y'all all tomorrow. And I hope that you have a chill evening and chill tomorrow throughout the day. If I don't see you, then, you know, maybe Tuesday, or I will see if I can cram in another stream on the end of the week. We'll see. But in any case, take care of yourselves, my dudes. Get plenty of rest. And yeah, we'll just wrap it up here. Take care and good night.